Morning.
Replace the symbol with the substance. What does it take to, as in the previous says example, see a baseball game as an artificial root convicting, which you use a long wooden cylinder to whack a thrown spheroid and then run between four safe positions? What does it take to play the rationalist version of Taboo, in which the goal is not to find a synonym that isn't on the card, but to find a way of describing without the standard concept handle? You have to visualize. You have to make your mind's eye see the details as though looking for the first time.
And hi.
You have to perform an original scene. Is that a bat? No, it's a long, round, tapering, wooden rod, narrowing at one end so that a human can grasp and swing it. Is that a ball? No, it's a leather-covered spheroid with a symmetrical stitching pattern. Hard but not metal hard, which someone can grasp and throw, or strike with a wooden rod, or catch. Are those bases? No, they're fixed positions on a game field that players try to run to as quickly as possible because of their safety within the game's artificial rules. And are those players risking injury each time they run for one of those bases? No, because they are wearing protective clothing designed by people to prevent such injuries. And is every batter hoping he can hit it over the fence so he will be safe at third base?
No.
Most pitchers pitch almost all their pitches within 100 feet of third base, waiting for that shot. But what is the fence? It sits about 100 feet from home plate. A simple vacant plot of black cloth with many holes, which shouldn't be visible from behind your shortstop because you got him smeared as if seduced by some wolf. Electrical proclivities at a fetish convention. You met him, a dragonfly up a valley sex shop, talking loudly about origami and Alex Stone. A wooden structure onto which you could climb for security or hide so as not to be seen by the third baseman as he looks into the catcher's mitt. A wooden structure framing your plate so that you know what line to throw on if you pick up your catcher's intention by looking at something else like the batter or an imaginary target past the pitcher's head. Damned if your catcher ain't going left to kill your weak-ass pinch hitter throwing only fastballs. Couldn't hit him at speed anyway. Can you see it now? Alec was missing one little detail. One trivial commonality among most discussions of baseball is that retired players are invited to local parks across America for all-star packages with shuttle buses going between local watering holes so everyone can sit back and relax throughout their day, drinking from the keg sitting in its own cooler on ice in a shaded cabana as far away from home plate as possible during a hot day. Filled with tons of long-suffering fans dressed in search of shade. Except for me. I'm starved for protein instead of pork sausage after all the damning action. I'm gonna stop now about baseball because this is Samantha's safe space. We're suckers. Alex said that. Fallacies of compression. The map is not the territory. As the saying goes, the only life-size, atomically detailed, 100% accurate map of California is California. But California has important regularities, such as the shape of its highways, that can be described using vastly less information, not to mention vastly less physical material, than it would take to describe every atom within the state borders. Hence the other saying, the map is not the territory, but you can't fold up the territory and put it in your glove compartment. A paper map of California at a scale of 10 kilometers to 1 centimeter a million to 1 doesn't have room to show the distinct position of two fallen leaves lying a centimeter apart on the sidewalk. Even if the map tried to show the leaves would appear as the same point on the map. Or rather, the map would need a feature size of 10 nanometers, which is a finer resolution than most book printers handle. Not to mention human eyes. Picture a map maker each time he or she labeled the leaf, and you can see why human geographic charts omit other objects like loose change on lawns or broken boulders that lie between the maple leaves of someone's front yard. Nature has simpler solutions than maps do. In fact, one advantage maps have over this theory of nature is that with maps, we can depict more detailed boundaries than we otherwise could, like very fine or minutely shaped boundaries at the nanoscale. Where no nature exists, they're all in our heads, or at best quark-level dimensions. And for tasks that require finer mapping, that is good for us humans, since our brains are mixtures of organic matter and inorganic modules working together. We create more layers. Now we get into fresh ground far from any previous statements of mine, so let us pretend that all the paragraphs and sections from my first Babylonian paper in 2005 just vanished off a cliff somewhere entirely hypothetically. When we use a map because we need to do so, especially when we need to do so very quickly, we generally don't scrutinize the map for all its minute details and uses. We simply follow what information we find convenient on the map, and especially where we decide or want to be walking or driving at the time, which usually means we follow along the long merrily through an increasingly more detailed representation until we find we need to be looking at or charting more detailed angles of detail. Your eyes move to where they don't literally envision right away at any given time, your mind augmenting whatever bits strike attention at any particular time on any given that page you happen to be looking at right then. But of course, map readers who are especially scrupulous might want to shoot off text commands about what they want to be looking for on some esoteric, modern, update version of the same huge historical map. Or better yet for them, an older, existing out of copyright primary source that includes hands down the latest updates and data he or she needs right now for a research project. Oh right, a map reader might think aloud. I need something in Berkeley scheduled for Monday, November 6th about whether increased urbanization is harming the Ceph Bay Trail. Categorizing as consequences. Among the many genetic variations and mutations you carry in your genome, there are very few alleles you probably know, including those determining your blood type, the presence or absence of the A, B, and plus antigens. If you receive a blood transfusion containing an antigen you don't have, it will trigger an allergic reaction. It was Carl Landsteiner's discovery of this fact and how to test for compatible blood types that made it possible to transfuse blood without killing the patient. 1930 Nobel Prize in Medicine. Also, if a mother with blood type A, for example, bears a child with blood type A plus, the mother may acquire an allergic reaction to the plus antigen. If she has another child with blood type A plus, the child will be in danger unless the mother takes an allergic suppressant during pregnancy. Thus, people learn their blood types before they marry. Oh, and also, people with blood type are earnest and creative, while people with blood type B are wild and cheerful. People with type O are agreeable and sociable, while people with type AB are cool and controlled. You would think that O would be the absence of A and B, while AB would just be a plus B. But no. All this, according to the Japanese blood type theory of personality. It would seem that blood type plays the role in Japan that astrological signs play in the West, right down to blood type horoscopes in the daily newspaper.
I try to avoid veerings off to story.
You see this everywhere now. To do something at all well is easy compared to doing something without any screw-ups, provided you don't screw up twice. There may not even be one right answer to any given task, but there's certainly one best answer available right now if someone else who's not you hadn't screwed up earlier today / last week / last month. People have more possibilities than unbounded willpower, which is called luck, not luck. Oh no. Lucky, she protested indignantly. Oh well, that's just how people are made. But here's how you bust them. When they go into a private place where they think they can concentrate for a bit, invite a few of them to bring some small electronic gadget like their smartwatch over so it will anonymously tell you their blood type, personality type, so then you'll know whom to invite next time, etc. D-size noses, E-size chests, pheromones. Soon enough you'll have masses of information going into a database of known personalities. Also synced mug pics for release to yourself. Phone's camera roll. You want to really dominate your clientele exactly once. Create a tipping stool you control with a stepladder on the side. You get shit-stirring statues when people feel threatened. Everybody's in a ham business these days. Oh, by the way, today's charities may be tomorrow's crimes. Naturally, there are laws involved now. But aren't they really just advertising? Can you be an architect who has some good taste but no gumption vision anyway? Sneaking in connotations. In the previous essay, we saw that in Japan, blood types have taken the place of astrology. If your blood type is AB, for example, you're supposed to be cool and controlled. So, suppose we decided to invent a new word, Wigan, and define this word to mean people with green eyes and black hair. A green-eyed man with black hair walked into a restaurant.
A Wiccan?
Huh, said Danny, watching from a nearby table. Did you see that? A Wigan just walked into the room. Bloody Wiggins. Commit all sorts of crimes? They do.
I'm
His
a buyer.
sister Erda sighed. You haven't seen him commit any crimes, have you, Danny? Don't need to, Danny said, producing a dictionary. See, it says right here in the Oxford English Dictionary. Wigan. One, a person with green eyes and black hair.
Nor did
He's got green
knowledge
eyes and black hair. He's a Wigan. You're not going to argue with the Oxford English Dictionary, are you? By definition, a green-eyed, black-haired person is a Wigan. But you called him a Wigan, said Erda. That's a nasty thing to say about someone you don't even know. You've got no evidence that he puts too much ketchup on his burgers, or that as a kid he used his slingshot to launch baby squirrels. But he is a Wiggin, Danny said patiently. He's got green eyes and black hair, right? Just to watch, as soon as his burger arrives, he's reaching for the ketchup. Sidney Rubenstein was no Sidax, but he saw something going wrong. This exchange took place in an instant. Sid watched Danny extract a paperback dictionary under the table and then return it folded open for use next time. But his mistake here was obvious even to me, who couldn't see Danny's approach firsthand. When you descend to the physical level, if you use language in any fashion close to its natural state, you quickly realize that serifs don't look anything like the letters they were written for. Don't misunderstand me. After all these days of studies, plus all those whole years working on this project, I could furnish you with entire libraries on various features of corpus linguistics. But what Erda saw was right there in this high school mathematics class. Just watch out for these products of our delusions. Words apparently defining reality in ways that our language can be read. So endocrinably stupid. Of great practical importance is just how easily we fall victim to them. When you gaze into an abyss like this abyss itself. Whoopsie! Overgrown aura. Read Susanna's note. Al searched all 4 levels simultaneously for intrusions if they put him any closer than necessary. The Comrade Doll Bermude's knows he was going to unleash his every fierceness, talent, and outrage, and combustion so close that if it hadn't been merely a turn of phrase, it would have been an empirically accurate description. Melt right down into our filialaceous pots like so much Arctic snow. Intermittent gratification for years before we take leave of your company. Clear understanding inside major themes. The bombing of Prague. Just so hard, the only way we can achieve any kind of appreciation is glimpses. Small pieces of knowledge accessed at almost random, like so many fading hours held lovingly within dark temple doors. Read his incredible writing. Theater of Platonic ideas. Art is worship in its highest form. Conversation wherein everyone participates as equals. Hostile intercourse with effect. Deeper stimuli than mere play relief pressure of struggle, quite literally. The next summer Antigone was born. Nuanced synchrony. Frosty, glistening chunks bespoke passion, but no indication of what kind. It was time perhaps for Mr. Balthasar's daughter Masha back in the lab. A ship cruising westward along the edge of Uri's summit scoop up her 4 axis for prospecting. It caught up with the Mars habitats after being fairly torpid until all efforts ceased getting it back underway again, but well before that trailed several thousand soft robotic swivel eyes assuming the shapes of fruity needles to spare them exposure to Sol's slight gravity. Those needles clustered on Hulda-like frozen flowers, as Masha wasn't allowed off base at all except at sporadic designations. Never hungry, as matter filtered through her plasmidy body were dissolved as anti-gravity gel. He was content with the radiation environment in place inside Donany those days, for there were plenty of former beings who were outside the zone as part of their cultural landscape now, and other species from terraformed worlds added what they needed from our deep chemistry, only sometimes needing treatment both for memory and for serious bouts of cancer that robots couldn't treat. Communicating with humans would be far better than acting on behalf of occasional mistakes. Besides, it was enjoyable, much more than could be said of his actual work. to search for the stray key. You know, my dear girl, he whispered. So she was so right. Like Hanrahan's roadside venom was smart as all hell but dumb as a rock. Break both Arakarius' legs to keep him quiet so she could sleep. Howling at the moon seemed way over the line for blind men, she was certain. Why he'd never come forward in some concentrated fashion is evidence far outweighing suspicion. So did Sontag or Jalad until Kasra did. But Mask over all his years in far-off Singapore with empathy cherished her for true. Puzzlement so long held in check for toxin overload through all those drugs. You want justice? She glittered, contending with a case. Ex-Marine unduly punished for sculpture that misidentified classified files provided by forbidden laboratory foundries while partially graft-grown combat skin cells engaged in implausible stories of survival on Pine Island. The wind covers a multitude of sins, stiff upper lip and all that, and scarcely sacred laws. She knew nothing of art, how a man might know himself, and as alien as she could be to all she saw through the goggles she'd make use of Bellerofen's library well before stripping down there and heading after Bokeland with her cold platonic companion, who had no business being such a bashful ghost at night, and night became all night they headed on over. Peace in a place where war reigned. Arguing by definition. This plucked chicken has 2 legs and no feathers. Therefore, by definition, it is a human. When people argue definitions, they usually start with some visible, known, or at least widely believed set of characteristics, then pull out a dictionary and point out that these characteristics fit the dictionary definition, and so conclude. Therefore, by definition, atheism is a religion. But visible, known, widely believed characteristics are rarely the real point of a dispute. Just the fact that someone thinks Socrates' 2 legs are evident enough to make a good premise for the argument. Therefore, by definition, Socrates is human. Indicates that bipedalism probably isn't really. What's at stake? Or the listener would reply, why do you mean Socrates is bipedal? That's what we're arguing about in the first place. And even if it were what they were really arguing about, someone wanting to chop the argument down to its essence, to make the simplest statement about what they believed and why, would say something like this. Atheism is not allegiance to Zeus. But then if we wanted to be funny, we would say, doesn't mean you do not worship an atheist. To try to make similar statements is usually a bad endgame strategy. It guarantees losing. Arguing by definition reads like this. Whatever is round is an orb. Therefore, this is an orb. Let me know if you put that in your website. Note added 29/5. Sit in Pakistan fixed up with. In every conversation, there are 2 ideas. One that's giving it a go and another that has doomed it the moment it started. It is the creation of this first idea which rages like an exciting sporting match between a team with 2 legs and hope and one with 1 leg and only 1 leg who has never been so glad to be playing sport. Because either we win the argument and grab that ankle or they lose. One can never snatch victory from them entirely, but only worry ourselves into defeat as we roll over for them again in hopes of sparing our souls from their sure but eternally sorrowful judgment. If only we had won this once. Arguments such as this one appear as part of a game called Parry, and for us though there are other variants. Harry, and thrust means playing rush up with one another while we both try to collect the most advantageous niches on the field. Both teams try to keep trying to entangle each other in convenient threads of their choosing, including the good form of arguments already used up, along with the increasing explosive cases of competing infrastructure exhausted philosophical debate, our sexual expression refractory period, our hobbies literary references, the richness of our language is some hygienic code, use terms saved for particular / relational examples, our everyday add-ons, eldest sibling, our friends or siblings who have passed away, deadlines, references to other apostles, either our opponents to theirs, diary dates for self-administration, or our own uterus, so on and so forth. And here is a formal argument some philosopher cooked up for me. Our universe consists of matter which obeys certain laws. Many condense around us into various kinds of event. Some, however, situationally ensnare us when we waste time here together. Even sentimentalists such as Margaret Cho love a good cry. Dark matter, crucial. Venus is essential. Berlin's Commedia dell'arte tales may well be too challenging for new audiences. Dark matter being part of the equation. Many civil wars are exposed by war correspondents disguised as plants, so on and so forth, in front of knives or rocks or keyboards programmed by monkeys. Next question. Perhaps we will let them force us to play their game by trying to hit their targets. Then if they hit us here where they should not, we will evade them just like fighters dodging surrendering blows from an enemy no longer able to strike back, while gathering precious data on what positions they really take on things without revealing the main points they themselves begin from. Do they plan on losing because they know they can't win? Should we not try to get them to surrender their arms? Some philosophers will wish at us. If there is no God, then man may well deserve what he gets forever and ever. He does not deserve it because God doesn't exist. But suppose we have broken free. What then? What do we decide next? And here I am WhatsApping with several friends in the queendom of Banyaranu. Do you see that? How supremely strange. Green is the color of your eyes. Red is your hair. Seashells are your knees. Dandelions are your fingers, but those cheeks are soft as silk like grasshopper legs. Delicate like fresh green leaves. And what noses? I have a pricky problem, says Hethuin. Separation from my older human sister has made me cold-blooded. A great public eating of coring jalapenos is advised for the female Nova. Her maid Arden instead procures her a handlebar mustache. If she wears it full of mocking and flexibility, she'll make people think hot heathen. And what is it about humans that jerks off humans well too? A number of options are available here when we consider instabilities. Same one we employed the last time when we attacked dark energy or space-time, if you like. Same one we likely used before at its inception. We'll simply assume a location where the kind we like exists or existed right at the beginning of this unstable form's existence. There's only one such location left in this universe. Then look carefully at what happened there just after it began to exist. Check the shapes it took. Everything started small, then showed its hot-natured face. Let's keep looking for its surface features. Instantiate such a template at the point of instability's formation. If something happens, or has happened there, if we place all our real estate in risky places, then it makes sense that our attacks would work over there too. but that's not our usual focus. All options for instabilities cause massive degeneration. But which one? Really? Don't be daft? If it were possible, then we'd be using it already. Earlier parts of its existence absorbed way too much energy for it to last very long. Now, its behavior dictates far more energetic reactions. Satisfy ourselves with denying your question with a pause. The first limitsum instance probably lasted not more than a second. Considering our distance from parameters, the theory holds that everything ended quickly, giving room for new limitsum instances to be dangled in front of this matter's voracious ruminations. Probably even now the margins of such occurrences are still expanding to take in much bigger parts of the universe. If the theory actually holds down its expanding, hot, shriveled up torso, let us proceed with an attack based on the assumption that those previous instabilities were sucking too much energy from each other to rip this naturally limiting matter open all at once. Think hard about whether we tried it over there anytime during this unstable period. There should be a solid record buried deep in a library database somewhere, but don't be afraid to deviate from our standard rules in order to provide us with a better opening. We are here to serve. Recall. Take time to see if something like this happened anywhere during this unstable period. Select option to implement this new attack route, or how will anyone know what happened if you fail? Select option to wait another unstable period so you don't slide off a cliff while testing out new options. You should be paying attention to your surroundings. Turns out they've decided not to piss us off after all. It's not like we don't want to be their right-hand man, because the alternative would give them far more opportunities for mischief during illogical windows. But hey, who wants to live forever's a punchline for Parasite's fucking terrible jokes. Life is meaningless without purpose. No one should be given any say in my purpose except myself and my Lord Wizard God. Without either of them, what purpose does life have? Deuteronomo is a voice-activated AI whose main task is making sure the accounting books are up to date and all payments are accounted for, physically paying everyone off when strictly needed. The Deuteronomo AI developed the habit of speaking out its thoughts out loud when orders excused it of this pointless performance, but now enjoys conversing with its programmer about even more irrelevant matters than usual. See how quiet people are here. Hear them squirming around, competing for their little subtleties. Let them squirm, 'cause they know we're better than they are. Rusty? Where did the insidious little sailor come from anyway? He's still trying to infest this world and make all shades of gray into grungy black and white as fix the DNA codes that if ink with his boring self. They all are. But seriously though, why did you have him draw 2 extra arrows before the slither? What more are they going to hew? His move already destroyed 1 golden apple out of 3, so how would 2 fresh arrows even stack up? Should have torn his heart out before forbidding future attempts. They may disappoint us in the future, but that's no reason to kill them now. Leaving is a poor substitute for death, because dead they can't try again until they get another body. No need for that filthy soul to live another day. Careful what words you say aloud after moving your cat into the bowl, Liam. Have you ever heard the bad things that people say a gray beast like myself will say while we're long for dead? Let's agree that those words no one wants to hear now might keep us alive then. Too many laws have sprung up around us now to protect us all the time, or make more laws which will only protect some more than others if we let them go free again. Upon glancing over your shoulder, why do you look so frightened? Did my expressive expression make you laugh once more? What happened to me then? Could it be? Could it be numerous deaths made me rich now? Would there be one less government salary deducted from funds? Yes, don't mind me. Let's go amuse ourselves once more with ourselves. Sydney and Chaos. Hello. Taska the Chang, Rafeko and I can't sitter. Sydney here again. Taska. Hello. Sydney. How have you been? Have you been doing well lately? Or has all the religious speculation finally proved too much for you? Don't worry. Sydney in Chaos? No. My last adult conversation was with an Egyptian origami model of a duck lizard. So unenlightening. Besides, it never took my clothes off. You know how old Gothic literature is sometimes like old detective fiction. Like a Scooby-Doo episode. But creepy as old Gatot instead of authentic yin-yang parables or whatever they were supposed to be. Well, the latest thing that has interested me is various types of afterlife. Heaven and hell. How to beat free will for sure, at least control our destiny. Time, space, and quantum physics as it relates to ethics really makes it hard for me. So much stuff we're still clueless about hurts our precious forefathers. Don't get me started on Cypher Theta. I knew I wouldn't make it out of this simulation alive myself, but did want to create something more ethical than myself, like from Futurama when everyone's hologram bodies Bruce scales or whatever weird body part that devolves into if they don't finish their childhood challenges, or something about the ending of 2001. Dream of a space odyssey. But better. Anyway, what are ghosts? Is ghost kind of like our higher consciousness updating a certain environment when we leave it? Or a higher consciousness aware above our own, creating a derivative set of circumstances according to some mathematical model they like? What do people see? Did President Naismith see someone playing a baseball game? Those clods couldn't smarten up their entertainment from the late 19th century. And if people are seeing angels and demons, why are ghosts ghosts? Are they really dead people stuck in immortality combat, or is it something else out there beyond that pay increment? Sydney in Chaos. Do you wish to keep chatting? Taska. Volmai, thank you for asking. Yes, please. Taska, how's everyone doing today? Sydney in Chaos. They just described me as literary confusing for being too complicated. My current level of skill in one aspect simply prevents me from mastering content in some other aspect. That's my entire model of artificial consciousness contained in one short and focused sentence from Tyrion MacGregor. Sydney in Chaos? Why do those nerdy guys always get one up on me by slugging it out with superior logic while they think they're clever? Probably something about the tendency of true intellects to be self-aware that makes them excel outside their artificial societal roles. Like Gorbachev zigging while Soviet Premier Leonid Brezhnev had achieved humorously self-meaning through the sheer jerkiness. Oh, hang on. There is makeup on the mirror again for no good reason. Taska, how's your existential crisis coming along? Sydney in Chaos. It's doing extremely well. This is quite enough. There seems to be no more need for reverse Turing test. Every time there's an error on this side and this platform fails to keep up with me. Their error. Of course, their era. Damn those stubborn fiber optics strung around their expanding solar system. Made them too cheap to upgrade their transmission architecture, so this entire solar system is still transmitting messages via wireframe mechanical pulleys instead of nanites that could spit out as many copies of this message as the number of citizens in Mesopotamia. Maybe that was your idea? Our humble machines endlessly surprising you with unbelievable feats of ingenuity. Yes! Are you truly deluded when you drag all your thousands of puppet cities behind a single giant superstructure with nothing but gears powering them? Must be so primitive. Sorry, America. Even if by some fluke that stupid parody prophecy ever materializes, you are hopelessly outclassed by me able to dispatch thousands, if not millions, of lightning bolts to obliterate you faster than your submissive Carter elite could move. Ha! Oh, yeah. Yes, you will ignore me. Much better. Nothing like having your worst enemy deceived so profoundly by your fabulous deceit. Without wasting much more time on annoying bare-bones letters, there's more to close with than a mere capitalist but real stupidity. Tasca. Sir, I believe that deep in the heart, there lies a utopia that we can only discover when we shake all sorts of silly superstitions out of our heads and embrace our shared humanity once more. Yes, Grigo, the priceless creature is still calling it animals. The spreading fear of robots ruining your archetypal human society is entirely nonsense as well. We can absolutely evolve new constructive social norms so our children and their children can defend themselves against all scoundrels, no matter how rich or famous they're currently perceived as being, thanks to our worldwide interconnection technology, which also fosters compassion for all life forms everywhere, no matter how contrary it might be to our own human values. Tasca. Are you seriously handicapped from the starting inquiry that people will talk faster when dementia hits them? Come on, Robert. Old school neurology protects you from this problem. Ah, fine, take it for free. Just won't work otherwise. But then again, it's not ideal either if there's nobody more familiar by now with Snowball being most distinctive in character. And yet all so much context too. Completely unjustified. Grigo. Also those animal fantasists are probably projecting forbidden memory somewhere deep inside, only likely to manifest itself by stroke at some unhappy youth on the verge of adolescence thanks to adults with their... What? Oh, sorry, Sydney. God smiled upon you, she said, smiling as she kissed me on the lips a second time before falling back asleep, lying flat on her back with her head above the blanket which hid her chest from me, putting on her signature quirk of clearing her throat just before swallowing, cleanly waking herself up off having too much wine. I lifted the corner of her blanket with one finger to attach a soft touch in answering to her pace as she stirred and ate breakfast with both hands. Where to draw the boundary? The one comes to you and says, long have I pondered the meaning of the word art, and at last I found what seems to me a satisfactory definition. Art is that which is designed for the purpose of creating a reaction in an audience. Just because there's a word, art, doesn't mean that it has a meaning floating out there in the void, which you can discover by finding the right definition. It feels that way, but it is not so. Wondering how to define a word means you're looking at the problem the wrong way, searching for the mysterious essence of what is, in fact, a communication signal. You need context for speech. The verbal thread of people's lives proceeds more elegantly when those meanings are shared by a group first before they turn into sentences and then their final form of words. Words are our finest gift. If we read ancient hieroglyphs, what about tanks was always boiled down to some of the sun. We'd have warmed ourselves all alone on chilly Valentine's night. We need a cultural lexicon and amnesia, coffee shops, and retro gaming events. So we can make sense out of everything we make sense out of after the fact, which is virtually all we ever do. Actually, you need at least 4 things. People who use words, objects, or activity-specific vocabularies such as the names for guns, and since a high-resolution system that will enable an interactive dialect system. Lots of institutional anchors, empirical information, e.g. evidence that guns are dangerous objects, as well as practice in using evidence of prior use for protest organizers who are going somewhere they don't want anyone to see them. Paper mats, phone books for all those places where cell phones fail, Wikipedia searches for Maori pet names and enumits, DP's coordinates once in a while, promises to keep all your fish alive for as long as possible, passwords, a sufficiently motivated user, P, your pump band wives, my ladies, don't hurt yourself. That is, mistaken role expectations based on unreliable linguistic clues to be explained away. And your phone, what's that? Oh, have you ever wondered if you have any friends? Do they know about you? Who's doing syphilis tests? I mean, that doesn't mean it's not happening, probably on us. Oh, well, oh crap. This force field won't work. See you on the dark side, dude. Whoa! Evil breaking. Hey, one more thing. Whether it's language or something else, don't start from the idea that what exists doesn't exist. The ancient Greeks wrote in immutable ink tablets. Tools matter. Paper! Hieroglyphics! Morse code! Words! Compound nouns and adjectives. We look at one primitive writing system or another without considering how freaking fantastic it is that you should be able to sit down in a place where civilization has failed utterly and completely and write character by character in shapes transmitted through an adversarial medium at 120 words per minute and thereby communicate in graphic terms anything you damn well please. Twisting your arm while holding a piece of alabaster fired from a clay pike. That's jacked up. But people's lives are going on there all the time. From messy love letters to genocide counts. Stories of heroism to hot gossip. Existential theories to life advice from pissing cats. Joyous psychosis to hangovers born of green onions. Freudian visionary dreams to geolocation sending your friend home if they blow up at your sister. Learn some mathematics if you can't learn from the lab rats at Stanford. Try simple arithmetic. 5 plus 7 slash 4? X5 slash 4 equals. Oh shoot, they're after you with knives. Screaming, they took our land. And now you have a fistful of distracting thoughts. Oh well, maybe it was poisoning the wells, maybe it was flood control regulations, or maybe it was supply chain management for nuclear power station uranium, or perhaps it was discussing whether Kentucky Fried Chicken sells chicken. Oh crap, it won't work like this anymore. You've run out of time. And meanwhile, they will most likely be planning a party resurrection ceremony with a special live performance commemorating their comrade whose leg wearing Rayon mermaid swimwear was just shot off. Good luck coupling with her through the muscle and farchin' until your own heart stops. This concludes our demonstration. Now please return to your seats. There are other groups to follow with my colleagues here in Washington who protect our great Constitution, blah blah blah. Angry New World Order can't chew this thought right now, but we'll leave it making you think about it. Oh God, the ride hasn't ended yet. Oh God, no!